I'm going to start to briefly introduce this amazing lady over here. So she has a lot of title, and out of these amazing titles, Vanity Fair marketing, like she is doing the audience engagement. So she is an expert in that. She's also an expert to understand how AI disturb the marketing area right now. So I actually have some interesting and a little tough questions for her, but she can handle it. Yeah. Also, like New York Times, right? I also want to bring that. New York Times,
Vanity Fair.
Yeah, it's like a lot of big brand on her resume.
Some of the legacies.
Yes. So yes, that's one of the questions. So how do you feel right now about the AI flooded content? And then as a legacy media, like how do you feel like the human touch on the content versus the AI ones?
You know, it's interesting. Legacy media, the companies obviously have been around for a long time and can be quite large and sometimes struggle with adopting new technology, and obviously that would include AI. What we have found, which is sort of reassuring, is that the human touch is actually winning compared to AI currently. It's something that, you know, journalists want to keep out of the newsroom just because the human element of writing content and creating content is so important. Maintaining that authentic voice, as Nikki mentioned, and that's something that AI currently doesn't have the capabilities of doing, especially with sensitive topics that are in the news. Human nuance is required, and human oversight at the editorial level with an editor vetting maybe the tone or the facts of a piece is still really important. So we have still found success with human-created content, and that even boils down to recirculation on our sites. When we hand curate a bunch of links, that actually tends to do better versus when we have an algorithm. So the human side's working.
Yeah, so like currently it's a technology-driven area. So how do you think AI will interrupt our media legacy?
Interrupt our media what?
Media legacy.
Interrupt the media legacy. Yeah.
Oh, well, I predict we're seeing this everywhere now. It's really common to open up social media feeds and to see AI-generated images and videos. I think that just the nature of this is that content creators are a lot more nimble than a large company. They're able to adopt new things more easily and be more creative with it and sort of explore the range of something new like AI. I think they're very much the trendsetters. And I think that legacy media are going to look to content creators outside of legacy media as the example. And integrate it eventually, because AI is so common, and I said this earlier, you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
It's the trend. Yeah, you cannot avoid it. Yeah, you cannot avoid it.
For better or for worse.
So you work with a lot of editors. I assume the AI creates anxiety for them, because a lot of people say ChatGPT is going to take over the editing job. What do you think?
I don't think it's possible right now. Who's to say even a few years from now how advanced AI technology gets? For now, as I said, the human aspect is really important, but AI does impact our engagement on the site. Now that search, which is one of most media's largest traffic sources, has started using AI for search results, that has actually impacted our traffic. Now, rather than users clicking through on links, they're able to get summaries at the top of their search results. So AI is definitely affecting the landscape in a really real way.
Yeah, I read on the research saying that a lot of Gen Z are actually using ChatGPT as a search engine. So I don't know how you guys, like how the audience feel. Like, have you ever tried to use like DeepSeek or ChatGPT to do the Google search job? But it's disrupting a lot. And then some of my students asking me, is it still necessary to study marketing major? Would AI replace the marketing people? What do you think?
I think that there's a lot more potential for AI to be used on the marketing side compared to the content creation side for legacy publishers, at least. For marketing, I think the name of the game is honestly profit, and advertising and automation is one way to do that. I think AI is great for that. We've already seen mechanisms for doing some of that on the advertising side, such as programmatic, and like sort of these pricing algorithms. I think AI will definitely affect those.
So even with human, there are like fake news, fake information online, but with AI, it's just even more.
Yeah.
So do you see like the media company trying to do something about it, like regulates the AI content, things like that?
That is a great question. It's definitely been impacting things in a big way. We've seen it in our politics, of course. Attitudes have been changing. I think that we have seen large platforms such as Google and Facebook go from freely allowing the stuff to be dispersed on their platforms to then kind of coming under fire from politicians and being pushed to regulate. And now we are actually seeing a swing in the other direction where under the perhaps pretense of free speech, we're once again loosening those regulations.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a very interesting perspective that I didn't know. So for yourself, right? Like could you like briefly share like how did you get into the industry? Like what is your background? Yeah.
It's been an arc for me. So I initially started on the advertising side of the media business. So was very much separate from the editorial side that I now work with. Was around many types of advertising people, from salespeople to, at that point in time, branded content was sort of the new thing, which is actually, I think, one area where AI could really write the whole thing and probably do almost as good of a job. And from the advertising experience that I gained, which was working with revenue numbers and profit margins, things that are sort of, I think, universal to any field, I was able to cross over into editorial and bring some of that analytic perspective to our editorial strategy and our content strategy.
So what do you think the difference when you work in the editorial side and the advertising marketing?
Well, one of the biggest concerns with editorial is preserving the voice of a brand and our legacy brand in this case. At Vanity Fair, being such a long-standing magazine, there's a lot of vetting that goes into not only the type of content that we publish, but the tone and how we want to broadcast it, how quickly we even want to broadcast it. Often we're resurfacing old content that might be relevant. So I think that is a big consideration that is maybe not so relevant to marketing.
Yes. So how do you manage that different jobs and like different role in a different size?
I think that at least with...
Yeah, that's what, me too. Yeah, I work as an editor and a reporter and a journalist before, and now I have to do a lot of job in the marketing and advertising areas. Right.
I think that strategy is one thing that crosses over to a lot of departments. I think, and I'm biased as an analyst, but I do think that if you have some grasp on how numbers, might change trends over time, you can move from one side of the business to the other.
Yeah.
And at least at large companies, often legacy publishers, the bottom line is relevant. What's the return here? If you can justify that, then you can get a lot of things done.
Okay.
Yeah. So seeing like in the different sides of the different industry, so when you work with people, work with your colleague, do you think there's any skill that is so irreplaceable, is so important?
Yeah.
Strategy, skills, or any tips
Yes.
you can share with us?
I think that's a great question. I think, so, at my core, I'm an analyst. I think people hear analyst and they think of a wall of numbers and tables and things. That is only one part of a job like this. Building trust with the people around you is really the biggest thing. I call myself the friendly neighborhood analyst because I want someone to be able to talk to me and know that I'm not going to throw math at them. I'm just going to be able to boil it down in a way that you don't even have to see a table to understand.
Amazing. Yeah. So for young people who want to get into the industry, do you have any tips, any suggestion?
You know, I think advertising is a great place to start. I think you have the opportunity to be creative if you have those skills. I think you have the opportunity to work with, you know, hardcore revenue numbers if you're more numbers-driven person. In sales, you will learn how to talk to people, and you could, it's like alchemy. You can just push that into any other side of a business after an advertising or marketing experience.
Yeah.
Do you also think the marketing skill, that's how I feel like as an entrepreneur, at the end of the day, if you want to start your own business, marketing is a skill you have to have.
Yes.
Right?
Marketing, promotion, and branding skills.
Advertising, finding the right influencer to advertise for your brand. Those are the things you work daily, right?
Yes. You know, it's one thing, and now on the editorial side, which I sit on, it's one thing to write the content. It's another to broadcast it so that people can access it easily. Just as Nikki was saying, to make something so niche and specific, we're thinking about that for our content too. We're search engine optimizing it. We're making sure certain things are in the headlines. It needs to be findable or no one's going to know about it.
Okay. Yeah. Is it possible to share how to make it findable?
Yes. SEO is one of the first things I think any content creator should be thinking about. There are some basic rules, and it all depends on what Google, the largest search engine, of course, recommends. So front-loading a personality's name, for example, if you want to talk about a politician, Donald Trump, if you want to talk about a makeup brand, Maybelline, put it at the front of your caption, the front of your headline. If you're covering an event, put the name of the event with the year. So Met Gala 2025. That small detail can get so many more eyes on your content.
Okay, so today would it be Elite Spotlight 2025, May 24th?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also I want to ask you a question for a new graduate student. Like if you want to find or apply for job in a big brand like New York Times and like Vanity Fair, that magazine. So what should they do? What should they prepare for themselves?
I think the biggest thing you could do is connect with a human being on the other side of the application. You're sending an application to a giant office building and somewhat large departments, and things get shuffled around at these big companies. If you can find one person on LinkedIn to respond to you, you can now ask some insider questions.
That's an amazing tip.
Connection, right? You mean connection and do a lot of research on social media.
Yes. Well, anywhere you can connect, I think, and make yourself look like a human being and not a resume, you will automatically be ahead.
Amazing. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you for your sharing, and we will bring you back for the panel.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing.